Hello, explorers, and welcome to Q&A episode 30 of Unbroken. My name is Alexandra Amore, and I'm really happy to have you here with me today. So today the question is fear making us fat? And this was something that crossed my mind the other day that I really wanted to share with you as a way of looking toward the understanding that I share here on the podcast and toward this inside out understanding of the way that we work and how everything that we're experiencing is coming to us via thought. So it occurred to me the other day, I was just thinking about my thinking, and I realized that so much of my thinking is insecure or fearful. So we often talk about how our thinking is so often in the future or in the past. And it's really clear to me that so often when we're thinking about the future, when I'm planning things or thinking about what might happen or what could happen or what should happen or what I should be doing in any given situation, that thinking is quite fearful. We might not necessarily label it as such unless we're aware that we live in the world of our thinking, not in the world of our circumstances. So I just started reflecting on the quality of my thoughts, or the nature of my thoughts, I guess, even when I feel like things are relatively peaceful inside my head and calm and quiet and things are fairly settled. And I realized that even then, my thinking can be quite fearful. And this makes sense because our brains, our brain's ability to problem solve, I always call them big problem solving machines. It's their nature to want to look out into the world, into what might be happening, and then solve that problem. And where does that come from? That comes from a place of insecurity or fear, right? There might be a situation that I, as a human, might encounter in the next 10 minutes, and my brain, being a problem solving machine, wants to get out ahead of that problem and it wants to fix it before it can happen. It wants to anticipate what might occur in order to keep me safe. And this, of course, makes total sense. I'm not judging my brain or my thinking at all. It's doing its job and it's doing its very best to try to protect me and keep me safe. And you as well, of course. We're all designed the same way. So, given that problem solving nature of our brains and our thinking, so much of our thinking can be, like I said, insecure or fearful. Even as I said, even when we're really calm and quiet. And then what can happen, and this is where I see anxiety start to occur in people, is that thinking kind of builds on itself. It gets even more sped up and more sped up and more sped up. And now we're spending a lot more time in that worried or anxious state. And we are, it's like a river running faster and being really churned up. And yeah, so that's what I see about that becomes an unwanted habit as well. I realize is that we get into this unwanted habit of being anxious and having these layers and layers of insecure and anxious thinking. So what does that have to do with an overeating habit? Well, here's what I saw about how fear is making us fat. So when we have that kind of anxious, fearful thinking, and we're not aware even, that it's happening, that it's, something that's occurring within us rather than coming from our lived experience, and B, that there's such a simple way to to deal with that thinking, and that is simply to see it for what it is. Once we see the shadow puppet on the wall and recognize it as such, then we know that there isn't a monster in our bedroom, right? That's one of the analogies we use in this understanding. But when we don't know these things and we've got all this thinking that's fearful and insecure, then what happens is we need to comfort ourselves. That's just perfectly natural and normal. And of course, we want to feel safe and secure and, in a way, create a buffer between ourselves and all of that insecure thinking. So what do? We reach for substances to help us to do that. And that can be anything. It can be food, it can be alcohol, it can be sex, it can be shopping, whatever it is. We're trying to create a buffer between ourselves and our thinking, or distract ourselves from ourselves and our thinking, or soothe ourselves from the thinking that's going on within us. And I know I've talked on previous episodes about how the substances that we use to soothe ourselves, like food, like overeating, they have a way of, at least initially, quieting down the thinking that's going on in our brains. So that's why they work, and that's why we use them. And so all that is to say that this is why, in this understanding, in my work, we're always pointing upstream, as I've talked about in a previous episode. We're pointing toward the root cause of what's creating an unwanted habit. So looking downstream and looking at the specificity of, well, I only eat when I'm anxious about being in the car. I only overeat in that circumstance, or I only indulge in my unwanted habit during this specific circumstance, like if my spouse is out of town and I'm in the house by myself, or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what it is. And that kind of specificity is actually looking away from the root cause of the problem. So again, we look upstream, and the root cause is our thinking, the fact that we're living in the world of our thinking, not in the world of our circumstances, and that the feelings that we have, the drive to overeat, the cravings that we have, are always, always pointing us toward the quality of our thinking and letting us know if it's gone in the toilet. And that, looking in that direction, is what ends up resolving an unwanted habit like overeating, rather than looking in the other direction and getting really granular about what's going on. So when we see that it is our fearful thinking that's making us fat, that can be really, really helpful in letting us, or in helping us let go of an unwanted overeating habit. So I hope that that's been helpful for you, and that it opens a little window into helping you understand the nature of thought, the nature of where our unwanted habits come from, and how looking at how we all work as human beings is the thing that resolves these habits, and understanding the kindness and the perfection, really, in our design, about how those feelings are letting us know that we're caught up in this busy, fearful thinking. It's just the perfect design, and it's always there for us, always supporting us, always letting us know what's going on. Our cravings are not a problem. They don't reflect that we're broken or flawed in some way or lacking. They're always, always perfection, really, and letting us know exactly what's going on. So I hope that's been helpful for you. And if you would like any clarification about that or have any follow-up questions about that or about anything else, please let me know. You can go to alexandraamore.com/question, fill out the form, and I'll be happy to answer your question on a future episode. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you again next time. Bye.